All right, welcome into today's show. I'm your host, Kurt Mueller, joined today by the Smokin Texan crew. We've actually got three of them on the show with us. We're joined by the pitmaster and chef, Chrissy Chance, her husband, Jeremy, who's the backup pitmaster and co-owner as well. And then on the other side of Chrissy is Mr. Kendrick. He is co-owner as well. For those that don't know, the Smokin Texan is about to open almost like any day now in Canton, Georgia. So I have to thank my good friend Tony McGee at Why Not Georgia Barbecue for making a connection there. But thanks again, guys, for joining us on the show, and I'm glad we were able to connect.
Thanks for having us on. Glad to be here.
So journey is a big part of the show. It's something I'm fascinated with. I love to talk about the barbecue journey, and specifically in your case, this journey into restaurateur, right? That's I think going to be pretty interesting. So paint us a picture, and either one of y'all could start, doesn't matter. But how did this all come about? How did the Smokin Texan come about, and how did this journey get to where it is now?
Well, for me, I started cooking professionally in 2009, and I went to culinary school through 2010 and 2012, and all my background's been in fine dining. I got sick for a little bit and had to quit cooking and give up that dream and go to the corporate world for, health insurance reasons. And then in 2020, when the pandemic hit, I was out of work for about 9 weeks, and we were thinking about what we could do to get by. And I bought my husband a smoker for Father's Day a year before in 2019. And we really got into smoking meats and creating our own rubs and experimenting out of the house. So when the pandemic hit, we started selling barbecue out of our house. And then I realized how much I missed it and how much I missed cooking professionally and how much I loved it. And I left the corporate world and I got a job as pitmaster, running a smoked meats program, creating rubs for a restaurant, 2021. And then in January, I met Keith.
Yeah, friend of mine who's also one of our co-owners, his name's Ross Vaughn. He's been in the restaurant business for about 10, 15 years. I've been in the restaurant business forever. And we went and had breakfast in downtown Woodstock with a friend of ours. And we're walking through downtown and walked into the place where Chrissy was working, and got in there and started talking to her, and realized that her passion for smoking and using the smoker and everything that went with it was just over the top, and how much she loved the business and everything. And so we met literally that one time. I went back the next day because she had beef cheek tacos the next day, and filled my fat face with that, and was very excited about that. And then we stayed in touch with Ross. They were talking food truck and all this other stuff. And one day here in Hickory Flat, I was out riding my motorcycle and found I was coming to Tractor Supply, which is one of our favorite stores down here in the South. And so I could go pet the chickens and the ducks, because they always have, they say, come see the chicks at Tractor Supply. So went by and I looked out, and there was a space that had been a restaurant prior and had just closed. So I brought Ross over here, and we took a look at the space and sat down and talked about it for a while. And then we went back to Chrissy and said, listen, we got a space. We're thinking about, let's put you in a spot, give you a bite of the business, and let's see what we can do with it. And we have not regretted it one bit, promise. And just as we had our first real onset as a restaurant a couple weeks ago in Canton,
Denim Fest.
With the Denim Fest, where Chrissy took first place with her Whole Hog. So,
that's right.
So it was, we're lucky to find each other, and we're real excited about what the future holds for us.
So let's just clarify something then. You guys are actually located in Hickory Flat. Is that correct?
Part of Canton. It's just it's a suburb of Canton. How about
Okay.
that?
Got it. Close enough.
Victory Flat and East Cherokee.
Yeah, so yeah, we're in a real, it's a booming area of what they would call southeast Canton, but it is still Canton address.
So tell us, and it has helped the listeners understand because the Smokin Texan does have a unique spin on barbecue, right? It's got a unique flair on it, which I love. It's always nice. It's always great to see just a different spin on something. But educate us, like what is that spin? What's the style, right? Because that's what I'm curious about.
So for me, I was born in Robstown, Texas, which is South Texas, and I was born and raised out in the Bluff, which is between Corpus Christi and Padre Island, which is about an hour and a half away from Mexico. I grew up on a lot of mesquite smoked barbecue, Tex-Mex, a lot of chili forward flavors. Of course, we have our brisket, but my dad was also a pig farmer, so we did grow up on a lot of pork down there as well. But for me, I haven't been home in 10 years, and I miss that. And it's hard for me to find that kind of food here. So I wanted to create the flavors I grew up on here. For me, I grind all my own chilies. I create all my own rubs, and they are that South Texas flavors that I grew up on and that I love and that make me homesick. And I know I'm not the only one. I meet a lot of people around here that are from Texas that miss that food. And when they try my food, they light up, and they taste those flavors at home. So that's really what I'm trying to bring here is a piece of what I was raised on and those flavors I was raised on. A lot of my food is chili forward, a lot of spice forward, but of course, all dry rubs, no sauce optional kind of barbecue.
What's the old saying? If it needs, good barbecue doesn't need sauce, I think, something like that.
Right.
It's about letting the meat speak for itself.
Yeah.
So one thing that we haven't touched on, is there a soft opening date or grand opening date on the calendar?
We haven't nailed down one yet. We still have Cherokee County stuff
Sure.
to jump through. So they've been great, but we do have to make sure we're 100% ready for the fire marshal, 100% ready for the health inspector. But we're looking really good. I would like to say 1st of December should be somewhere around there, but we can't nail down a date yet.
Sure. A lot of hoops to jump through, I's to dot, T's to cross, no doubt. Where can listeners link up with you guys? What are your social media handles, website, stuff like that?
Our page on Facebook, it is at the Smokin Texan 777. I have an Instagram. Between both profiles, they're linked, so you can hop between Facebook and Instagram. And then we also have our website, which is thesmokintexans.com. And we are currently trying to buy the website without the S. We are in negotiations to get the website, the domain, thesmokintexans.com. But for now, it is the Smokin Texans with an S.com. That goes to our website. And right now it is just geared towards catering. Once we get the restaurant up and running, we will switch it over towards the restaurant.
I love that. And again, for our listeners, we'll have all that information in the show notes. So with links, so that you can, reference that later on and check them out, because I have been stalking, I guess is probably the right word, on social media. And yeah,
okay, I'm stalking you too.
Fair point. Fair. Well, that's what it's there for, right? So, so Jeremy, question for you. I know that you are, really co-pit master, backup pit master, if you will, co-owner. What's your fit in all of this? What's your specialty, I guess, or it seems like you guys have a really good, solid team. Everybody's got their own strengths, et cetera. Where are your strengths, and what are you bringing to the Smokin Texan?
I'm actually a 25-year mechanic, so I can fix just about anything we need to do.
There you go.
So that's
been great.
But she bought me a smoker for Father's Day. It's like a green egg deal, and
An acorn.
yeah, man.
Yep.
She would get in these rubs, and I'm talking like 19 different spices in a rub, and we apply them to turkeys and fish and all kind of different things. And man, just melt in your mouth kind of food, and completely love it. So I stopped working on cars, it was going to kill my back and things like that for so long. And the wife's dream with her. It's exactly what we're going to do.
He fills in everywhere I need him to. I train him in everything that I do. So that way I can walk away from something. We have also 2 outdoor competition smokers. We have our Whole Hog smoker, and then we have a offset smoker, and then of course the smoker on the back porch. And he helps me maintain all that fire. He helps me take care of the smokers. He helps me babysit all the meat. So that way I can go do sides. I can do everything else because, I have the chef background. But he is also just as much as a pit master as I am. So, I can get him on something and then I can walk away and go focus on other stuff. And that's really what's going to be an asset here at the restaurant, is because I can have him smoking meats while I'm training staff in my recipes and stuff like that. And we really rely on each other. I was kind of panicking at Denim Fest because he got hurt the night before Denim Fest, and we were in the ER. And he's my backup, and he helps me in everything, so I can do other stuff. And I thought I was going to be down Jeremy at Denim Fest, but Keith stepped up and helped me. Ross came in and helped me and everything like that.
And clearly it whatever you did worked, because you guys won that against some stiff competition. So that was pretty neat to see. Let's talk about Whole Hog for a second. It's on my mind, of course. So we chatted about it a little bit before we hit record. And I think, a lot of people will say that, Whole Hog, mastering Whole Hog, if you can ever master Whole Hog, is kind of the pinnacle of barbecue. What makes your Whole Hog different? I'm just curious. Obviously, you've got your own trade secrets, not asking for that, but just more so, technique, how you go about prepping it, those types of things that you'd be willing to share.
So for my Whole Hog, I do prep it the day before. I clean it up. I do inject it the day before. And the injection is honestly really simple. It's just apple cider vinegar, apple juice, and then we let it sit overnight. And then I come back to the next day, and I have a specialty pork rub that it actually took me 2 years to work on, to develop it, to perfect it. It's actually how I met Keith and Ross, and how it got them hooked was I gave them a sample of my pork rub. But I do rub it down. I just do a dry rub in there. I cook it at 225, very low, very slow. I do over direct coals. Of course, I put most of my coals over the hands and the shoulders, like everyone. And really, I let the meat speak for itself in the end. But I do mop it every hour on the hour. To me, this was my 4th Whole Hog, honestly, like in my lifetime. It's something that's beautiful. I just, and with all meat, I just want to let it speak for itself.
But the biggest thing with Whole Hog, though, is you have to name it.
Yeah.
And it has to be named by somebody that you respect. Yes. And that a lot of other people respect too. Her Whole Hog for the competition's name was
Betty White.
Betty White. That's right. I remember seeing that on Facebook.
Yeah, Gary was picking on me on stage when we went to go win. He's like, only a female pitmaster would name her Whole Hog. But the one before that, we named Peggy. But I do always name my hogs, of course, for luck.
That's a good point. I think, well, we probably should have done that. I think if we'd have done that in Vienna, maybe we would have got better than 5th, but it is what it is. So Keith, the question for you, sir, and this is more so on the restaurant ownership side of things, because we do have some listeners to the show that want to create a restaurant, want to create a food truck. And I am going to put you on the spot here, so forgive me. But when you talked about the first time you met Chrissy, and you went back the next day and started to build that relationship, what was it initially that you saw in her that made you go, you know what, I think there's something special here that we could really grow?
Well, she was busy when we walked in, but she still took the time to come out and talk to us, and that's huge. But the big thing was just the passion that she had for the business, talking about all the different types of meats and everything that she's dad done and what you plan to do in the future. Having this taster rubs, having to bring in little samples over for us to taste. Talking to her, said, yeah, we're only open 6 days a week, but that 7th day I can come in, I clean JR. Well, JR is a smoker. So she went in every day. She worked every day of the week, and Monday she went in for a half day, probably 6 hours, to clean the smoker. So just the passion that she had for the business, we knew that if we came up with the right spot or the right whatever venture it was, and put her in it and gave her the equipment and the support she needed, that we all could be very successful.
I love that. So passion is a huge part of barbecue. I don't think I've met anybody in barbecue, whether they own a restaurant or a team or just love to do it, that they're not passionate about barbecue. It seems like it's there's not a whole lot of people in the middle. Either you absolutely love it or you could care less.
Right.
So
I actually hug my smoker every morning when I go in, the one that's inside the restaurant, that it came with me from my last restaurant to this one. And every morning I'd get there at 5 a.m., light it up, and it was just so peaceful, and it brought me so much joy, and I love it so much that I literally would just go in and hug JR in the morning, hug my smoker every morning. I tell even my husband, everybody, that smoker is the love of my life.
Oh, that's right.
Got some tough competition, huh, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Something like that.
I can fix it though when it breaks.
Well, there you go. That's most important. So I know you said you've got an offset. I'm curious to just kind of hear more about your setup there. You mentioned you have an offset. What else? You mentioned there's 2 other smokers, I think, is what you said as well.
Actually, technically have 5.
Okay.
So here at the restaurant, the main one that we will be running is at JR Manufacturing Little Red Smokehouse. So for our area smokers, it's all hardwood, no propane, no gas, just straight hardwood. And we do use hickory and oak here. Unfortunately, I can't get mesquite all the way here in Georgia in the amount that I need, or I would. And then we have a small Southern Pride next to JR here in the restaurant. And really my main use of that one is going to be, I do smoked pecan pies, I do smoked bourbon bread pudding, I do a lot of smoked desserts as well. So it's a little bit smaller. That's what I'll really be using for desserts. And then we have the Acorn Smoker, which I bought him for Father's Day, which started all this. And then we have our Whole Hog Smoker, just all straight charcoal. And then we have the Graves Smoker, a guy here in Canton, Georgia. Graves Smokers built it, and it is an offset. It's got the big barrel in the middle. It's got the rib box on the side, and then it's got a separate box over here for coal smoking.
And then you got to remember the Santa Maria.
Oh yeah, I do have one more. The Santa Maria grill. It's a wood fire grill, also by JR Manufacturing, that you can raise and lower the grate over the coals.
Tomahawks.
Tomahawks. That's right. Now that's the Santa Maria, meaning the open flame style.
Yeah.
Those are a lot of fun, and they need a lot of babysitting, but they're a lot of fun.
Yep.
I've gotten pretty used to babysitting smokers in the last 2 years. I've gotten pretty good at staying up for 48 hours straight too, babysitting everything we do.
No doubt.
Well, especially if you're cooking like you are, which I know is low and slow. And I know, over the years, like anything else, barbecue evolves. And recently, well, I shouldn't say recently, but at least over the past maybe 5 to 6 years in the competition space, it has become the hot and fast is the new trendy, the drum smokers. I know, folks like Gateway Drums have been really popular on that circuit. Have you ever thought about cooking that way? Just for fun?
We did try a brisket hot and fast. We watched how Myron Nixon did a hot and fast brisket. And I I've always done everything at 225, low and slow.
It's scary.
But after we were watching the barbecue competition shows with Myron Mixon and Tuffy Stone and Robbie Royal and all that. We binge watched it. I saw him doing the hot and fast brisket, so we decided we were going to try that at home on our offset. And honestly, I really didn't like how it turned out. It wasn't the same. That was pretty much the only time I did it. Like if it's chicken or if it's turkey, if it's something like that, I'll definitely do it. But when it comes to a brisket, absolutely not.
It was like cowboy boot sole.
No, it wasn't that like that.
That paints a pretty.
It definitely didn't taste the same. It didn't taste like the same amount of love.
It's like other thing in barbecue. It takes a lot of practice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's funny because great barbecue and great competition barbecue are two very different things. I joke around with folks that if I gave them a full rack of competition ribs, they probably couldn't finish it because it's so rich, and it's funny because I don't cook that way at home. It's just not something I'm going to do, which I know some teams, they like to, get more practice in there. But I do think one thing that is interesting that I want to touch on, and that is women in barbecue, right? I think that's I've seen more of that. I don't know if that's because I myself have gotten into, barbecue, but I've seen more and more and more of that, which I think is awesome. Because frankly, I think the more people we have that are able to pass along that art to the next generation and so on and so forth, the better. Chrissy, from your standpoint, where do you see, that going? I mean, do you have aspirations, to be up there with, I'll use Sonny Moody as an example, out of Nashville, world steak food champion, et cetera. Where do you see your path taking you, in that respect, in terms of, positioning yourself to be like an influencer? Not maybe the right word, but basically, we're young women are looking up to you.
I've honestly never met another female pitmaster face to face. For me, my inspiration has always been Tootsie.
Yep.
Her work ethic alone, and back in Texas, we're just raised on that work ethic, and I really look up to her. And that's kind of how I felt going into Denim Fest as the only female. I really felt like I had to do my best to show that a girl can compete against these guys, and that we are rare and they are hard to find, but we are out there. And as for the future, it's just taking it one day at a time. And I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I do want to be an inspiration to other women out there, that, you can do this. It's not just a guy's world. And, I have 3 daughters. My oldest daughter has been cooking for about a year, doing fine dining and stuff like that. She was raised in the kitchens with me. I'd go to work and she'd sit in the kitchen, and she's really looked up to me, and she's really gotten into cooking lately. And that really I love it. And she'd go to work and everybody compliment her, how she's just like her mother, and that warms my heart. And I hope that I can be an inspiration to other women out there.
So a question for all of you, and that is, obviously everybody, on this show right now is really, really passionate about barbecue. Curious to hear or learn more about your individual journeys into it. I know Chrissy, you mentioned that you grew up with it in South Texas. Keith, how about you? What was your journey like into this barbecue world?
Well, I've been in every aspect of different types of restaurants. I've started out in fast food with Wendy's, and actually worked at Steak and Ale when Steak and Ale used to be around. I was a manager for them here in Atlanta. I was partners with a gentleman for off and on for 13 years with White Tablecloth, 3 different restaurants in Atlanta. And then over the last 6+ years, I actually worked with the Fox brothers downtown Atlanta, who very well known in the world of barbecue.
Right.
And over the 6 years running their, the big restaurant, the original restaurant, I learned a ton about barbecue and I really enjoyed it. What I enjoyed probably even more than the food was the people that come in for barbecue. You know, I was working at the, wore a suit and tie to work every day when I was in the white tablecloth business, had people coming in buy those $2,000-$3,000 bottles of wine, and they were very just not the nicest people. Well, when people come in for barbecue, you're bringing back memories of, because barbecue's always a fun thing. We're out grilling behind Dad's house, or we're smoking a turkey for Thanksgiving or something like that. So you have these people that are very down to earth, and even if they are maybe those that buy the $2,000 or $3,000 bottles of wine when they're out having their steaks and seafood, when they come into Fox Brothers, they would sit down, and it's back to I'm eating pulled pork, mac and cheese, and collard greens, and you can go up and have a good time with them. It's real laid back, laugh and joke. I've made tons of forever friends through Fox Brothers. The brothers, amazing guys, and run an amazing business. And I do want to, while I'm here, I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Kara, who's the director of operations for them. And she is a very amazing person to work with. Literally, my last day was 2 weeks ago, and it was tough for me to leave.
Sure.
But, we've got this opportunity in front of us, and we're just ready to get open and start serving people.
That's exactly right. And again, targeting first part of December-ish, hopefully, fingers crossed, right? Right before the holiday season. And I know that just in looking at y'all's website, which again, for our listeners, the Smokin Texans, there's an S on the end of there for now. Check out the website because the catering offerings are pretty mouthwatering. I was looking at some of those and it made me very, very, very hungry. So Jeremy, I'll pose the same question to you about this barbecue journey, right? Because I think it's always fascinating to me. I don't know why I'm so interested in it, but it's really cool. So what brought you into this barbecue journey, or did you just get drug into it?
It was just when she bought that smoker, man. I went and got some, let's see how this works. And man, it was just like that. Like I was just drawn and made for it.
When I bought him that smoker, he literally smoked ribs, if not on a daily basis, every single week. And after like 3 months, I was like, sweetheart, I love you, but I could not eat ribs for dinner again. Not that they weren't fantastic, because they're fantastic, but he got so obsessed with constantly smoking every day.
Then I went to chickens and turkeys and fish and
literally
stuff.
smoking anything and everything on there. He was putting eggs on there. He was seeing whatever he could smoke. He was obsessed with using it on a daily basis for probably the first 6 months I bought him that smoker. He'd never had anything like that. And that's where I got interested, because I was like, okay, if you're going to constantly be smoking our dinner every night, I'm going to start making rubs, and so I started grinding chilies and creating rubs to go with whatever he was doing. And that's pretty much how I got attached to, was buying him that smoker for Father's Day. And then, within the first couple months, we were both hooked. But yeah, in about January of this year, he did get kind of dragged into it. He was he's been a 25-year mechanic with a salary job. And in January, I left my job and decided to start my own company. That's about the time I met them. And I convinced him to quit that salary job and come do this with me. Let's do this together. And that's about the time we met Keith and Ross. But he did kind of get dragged into it this year.
Well, certainly there's a little bit of dragging going on, no question, but I think it's neat to hear that, when you made up that decision to take this leap, that you did so with both feet. You burned the ship, so to speak, as I like to say. Yeah, the ship is gone. There is no ship in the harbor, so you gotta forge a path forward.
If you're gonna do it, you just gotta go for it. And we just didn't want to work for other people anymore. We wanted to go in it on our own and work for ourselves and do something that we love. We didn't want to keep working these corporate jobs where we were coming home miserable every day. You know, I have a huge passion for cooking. I love cooking for people. It makes me so happy to feed other people, complete strangers. He's fallen in love with it since we've been together. And we really enjoy it. And it's our happy place. And we thought, well, then let's just do this full time. So we're not coming home miserable every day. We're loving what we do every day. We love getting up. We love starting that fire. We love staying up with it all night. We love feeding people and then getting these reviews and getting these text messages, you know, oh my God, these are the best pork belly burnt ends I've ever had in my life. And, you know, that just, it warms our heart and warms our soul to have that feedback from people. Or like even this weekend or last weekend when we did Denim Fest, you know, I did Texas barbecue. I did 2 Texas dishes that were classic. And there were so many other Texans there. And they would just come up with like, oh my God, I haven't tasted this since I've been back home. I have met another guy from Corpus Christi, which is where I'm from. And it was like 2 golden retrievers. Our tails are wagging. We were so excited to talk about Texas barbecue. But really, we just got into this because we love doing it. And we're really happy, you know.
I love it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very life-changing. You know,
It is.
what's the phrase? You don't work if you are doing what you love.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't work a day in the life if you're doing what you love.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And I love the passion. It's literally oozing out of all of you. It's awesome. It's fantastic. So as we wind down the show, and again, for our listeners, take some time, connect with the Smokin Texan on Instagram, on Facebook, website, just add an S for now to the end of that, the SmokinTexans.com, which technically you are plural, so kind of works. And I want to also give a shout out again to Tony McGee with Why Not Georgia Barbecue. He's a great promoter of all things Georgia barbecue. You talk about passion and commitment to really helping grow the sport, if you want to call it that, just barbecue in general. Tony's great about that. And make sure to, check out his Facebook page, Why Not Georgia Barbecue. We'll have that in the show notes as well. So as we wind down, I love to end with this question pretty much on every show, and that is some words of wisdom. Words of wisdom around barbecue, could be around opening a restaurant, whatever it may be. But I'm curious to hear from each one of you your words of wisdom that you would have for someone looking to get into an endeavor like this. What would you say?
As far as opening restaurants, whatever your budget is, double it.
Double it.
Whatever your time frame is, double it or triple it. But overall, again, like we said just a few minutes ago, if you're working with people that you love to work with and they have the same passions you do, then you need to stick with those people.
It's like building a clubhouse.
Because it's so hard these days to find people with the same passion that you have. And the great thing about our team, with myself, Ross, and the Chances here, is we all bring something different to the table.
Right.
And it's great because she's the recipe person, she's the skills person, I'm a numbers guy, Ross is design and numbers and everything else, and Jeremy can do anything. We have found that out. Anything and everything. So just make sure you're around with people you like to be around with, because if you're going to be spending a lot more time with them than sometimes with your family. Restaurant business,
right.
Tough business.
Cooking for me has always been about cooking from your heart, cooking from your soul, putting all my love into something. And I would say that's what makes food taste like home. Put all your love and all your feeling and all your passion into it. People can taste that in your food. I put a lot of heart and soul in everything I make to make sure everybody, feels that piece of home, feels what I feel about my home. And I think that's the best way to cook. If you're just cooking to cook and you don't have any feelings put into that food, it's just going to taste like food. But when you put all your love and all your passion into that food, it tastes like your grandmother's cooking, if you know what I mean. And I think that's probably the most important thing when it comes to cooking for me, is just putting everything I am onto that plate and having them taste that and taste where I come from.
I love that. And so now we go to the jack of all trades, Jeremy himself.
That's,
Words of wisdom.
it's just as simple as fixing a car, man. It's one bolt at a time.
I like that.
Or it's how you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. So
That's right.
it don't matter how long it takes you to get there, as long as you do all you
I love
can to
it.
get
Easy to understand. You paint a vivid picture there. I love it. And again, thank you all for taking the time to join us. It's been awesome chatting barbecue. I could probably talk for another hour, but I know you've got things to do, and so do I. So, but I will let you all go. And again, thanks for joining the show.
And congratulations on your big win.
Congratulations, sir. Good place, Whole Hog. Down there with all those guys.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun for sure.
Oh, I bet.